Hey everybody, Nick here, and today we're going to do a little bit of disassembly and maintenance on this little guy. This is an ADV Mini-Butcher. And first off, I want to thank my buddy Francisco for sending this guy along and for giving me full permission to take it apart. Although he has already stated that it was a little bit tricky for him to take down and to get back right and centered. So I'm going to first pay attention to the fact that it is pretty much roughly centered here. It's favoring the presentation side just a little hair. Action is okay. The tent is soft, but that may just be the part of the life with the knife. But right now we've got some side-to-side blade play and some other... Well, it's just not running as nice as I'd like it to. So before I do my full review, I want to take this guy down. And so we'll take a look here. So I'm just going to get started and dive on in. I'm going to go ahead and pull out the side screws here. We're looking at T8, and those are going straight into the titanium on the other side. T8. Come on now. Pop that loose. There went my backspacer. That's okay. Now let's pop out the pivot here, and this looks like it might be free spinning. And one thing to point out here is that there's a set screw on the inside of the pivot there, which is weird, but apparently allows you to set it so that at full tightness the knife is you know, at the right sort of thickness. So this screw is bigger than I'm used to. That was a T10 bit, and this is bigger than that. So I'm going to go ahead and try a T15 here. And even that's a little small. Let me look at some larger bits here and see what this could be. Let's see, T15, maybe the next step up would be T20. That seems awfully large here. Yeah, no, T20 it is. I'll be damned. Okay, so we got ourselves a T20 bit in the pivot. At some level I respect that because, well, bigger Torx tends to be a little more reliable, but still. Okay, and this is free spinning, but I'm just supporting the other side with my finger here. And there we go. Pop this out, pop this out. Slow and steady's winning the race here, or at least I sure hope it is. Okay, and we've now reached the point where it's actually... I'm not able to put enough friction on the other side, so I'm in a dangerous location. A juncture, if you will, that is dangerous. Because I want to make sure this side's got that little set screw in there, so I don't want to screw it up. And I don't have two T20. Well, do I have a second T20? As a matter of fact, I do. Never mind. Problem solved. I don't want this blade to come falling shut on my fingers. I really don't. There are many things in this life that I want, but that's right there, right now, up towards the top. So I'm going to actually hold it by the blade. Welcome to Amateur Hour with Nick Shabazz. Need like that sort of sound. Just make it a yakety sax. It'd be good right now. I don't have nearly enough hands for this, and this little hand bit driver thing is not magnetic, so it doesn't hold the bits in there. And we are out. Okay, beautiful. So the other thing, whoa, this is on roller bearings. Neat. So that's a surprise. This is the first knife I've actually handled that's on roller bearings. You can see here that instead of having little what am I trying to say here? Instead of having little balls, you have little rollers, basically, that allow the knife to flip. That's new and interesting. One thing I'm going to highlight, though, my buddy Francisco sent this along saying that it's the case that you need to have these bearings in the right orientation. And so on this guy, the little cutout here, you can see one of these sides has a sort of a circular cutout in the middle, and the other side does not. The side with the cutout faces out. On this and on the other side, on the lock bar side, it looks like it's going the other way around. Yeah, where the side featuring the little circular cutout here is facing the blade. That asymmetry is weird, but I'm going to go ahead and take his word and put it back together in the way I found it. But that's neat. Roller bearings is something I don't have a whole lot of experience with, well, any, roughly. But it's a cool idea. I mean, fundamentally, the role of a bearing in something like this is to simultaneously provide support for the blade as well as to, what am I trying to say here? Inhibit friction, basically, and so the roller bearings provide a much larger contact surface, which provides increased support for the blade and otherwise. These are not as straightforward to clean as your spherical bearings, but all I'm doing is kind of making a circular pattern here with the goal of I'm going to spin at least each of those rolling bearings once or twice and get whatever gunk is built up on them off of them. Not perfect, but it should do the trick. Just trying to make sure that I'm on the axis of at least each one of them by doing a bunch of these different motions. It seems to be doing the trick here. And I am getting some dirt and muck and the gunk off of there, so that's a beautiful thing. Demuck here, there's your stop pin. Go ahead and put that back in. Clean off the detent ball. The detent ball looks to be maybe ceramic. Maybe otherwise. Look at the blade here. You can see the blade is pretty straightforward. Deep detent hole. We'll see if this cleanup enhances the action at all. Right now, it's got a very weak detent. Unfortunately, that was my experience of another one of these butchers at Blade HQ when I went down there to handle one. Although it was full size, the detent was just disappointing for a knife as expensive as this guy is. But hopefully the cleanup here will help that out. Another thing that I'll highlight here is that this little thumb disc is on a Torx, which means it can be removed, which is the very, very first thing I would do in owning this knife, because thumb discs are terrible, and this guy is especially so because you got to flip a tab. And so all this is really ever going to do is hang up on your whatever you're cutting into. Deeply, deeply ugly, but also deeply removable. I wouldn't be shocked if it was red Loctited, though, so going to keep that in mind. I'm going to move to a Q-tip here, and I'm just using some rubbing alcohol here, 91% isopropyl, to clean these things out. So you can do that at home if you so see fit. And just cleaning out the outside of these bearing races. This is a fairly simple knife in actual construction, even though there's a whole bunch going on with it. Got your over travel stop here. Got a lock bar insert here, which is nice. Secured by these screws. Let's take a look at this pivot screw a little bit more closely, because it's got that weird set screw thing going on the inside here. So I'll clean this off first. Then I'll look at the pivot. So what we can see here is that there's, well, the big question is what we can actually see. If we look deep inside of there, maybe with a little bit of light. Oh, where's my flashlight? Here we go. Sorry, just hit the light dispersing fabric. Maybe we can see inside there, but deep inside of there, there's a set screw that we can control by this little thing that will make sure that it locks up at the right time when you fully tension the pin. I don't know that, screw against set screw is a recipe for much goodness, but hey, why not? It's worth a try. It's a different thing. I don't know if it's an innovation, but it's certainly not something you see every day, and so why not? Just cleaning out this interior portion. Let's see here. And cleaning out the outside of the pivot. So far, this looks pretty straightforward. Like I said, there's a lot going on with this knife, but there's not anything so spectacularly weird or different about it. Clean off this nicely anodized little chunk here. It's a very reflective anodization. I appreciate that very much. Everyone likes a nice reflective ano. That doesn't even make sense. Moving it along here. Let's go ahead and start reassembling. Unless there's anything else. No, I don't think so. Okay, so I'm going to use 10 weight nano oil here. Never actually tried it with the roller bearings, but I see no reason why it wouldn't work well. Probably would not go much thicker, like the 80-85 weight would not be a good choice here. But the 85 weight generally isn't a great choice for a lot of bearings anyways. Slide that on through here. Now let's lay down some oil in the detent ball track. I'm sorry, in the bearing track. So on the show side, I'm sorry, on the lock side, the little ring faces towards the blade. So I've done that now, and now I'm just going to spin this around here with the hope of distributing that oil onto the roller bearings here. Not 100% that I've done that effectively, so I'm just going to dab a little bit onto each one here. That's probably a little bit of extra lube than it needs, but why not, right? Put a little inside the detent hole and along the path there. Speaking of probably a little more than it needs, that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and drop the blade onto this. Seems to be rolling nicely, no problems. All right, now this guy faces the scale side with the little circle, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and apply some of the lubrication down here. And now again, I'm going to try and spin, spin, spin to get some of the oil up. And I'm going to go ahead and individually, a little tiny drop on each of these. There's that. What else? So I need to make sure that this is in the right orientation. And because there's a lanyard hole, that's easy. This lanyard hole lives right over here. So that's nice. Big fan of that. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and drop this onto here. Okay, first the stop pin. Is the stop pin seated? No. Ah, bugger. Alrighty. I'm just all kinds of 50 shades of screwed up at the moment, but that's okay. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just drop through. That's weird. Almost like those were magnetized or something, but okay. Moving it along here. I put a little tiny bit of Loctite on this little guy here. Not too much, but just enough. And I'm going to try and just drop it through. Drop it through. That'll keep my back spacer in alignment. I put the Loctite on there ahead of time because it's going to be easier to do it now rather than later. Come on. There we go. So now I focus on getting that stop pin in there. Okay, that's in. Now I need to get my pivot the rest of the way through. I guess the pivot is the rest of the way through. I can live with that. Now I'm going to go ahead and lock down these scale screws, and those are Torx T8 as I recall. T8. I'm not going to put a whole bunch of torque on them, but I just want them in roughly the same position so that they're not going to come falling out. There's that. Now I'm going to go ahead and deal with this pivot. So make sure the stop pin is in place. I'm not sure whether this back pivot portion is actually in position yet, but we're about to find out now, aren't we? I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of Loctite on this screw. More importantly, I'm going to go ahead and drop it on the floor because that'll be helpful in this whole process. Using just a little tiny bit of Loctite may even be too little to be of help, but what I don't want to do is to drown that set screw such that it can never be unset screwed. I'm just going to try and tighten this down here. Go the first chunk. Now That's very, very loose. Let's keep tightening here. Okay. That's remarkably smooth. That's nice. Still a bit of blade play though. So we're going to have to tighten on both sides. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. And centering is good right now. Do it this way. I'm going to secure the whole knife, and then as I get the flipper tab, centering's off now. No, is it? Yeah, maybe. Maybe very slightly. There's zero blade play. That's good. So we fixed that much. Yeah, but it is slightly off center. So I'm going to see if I can back this pivot off slightly. Action's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the blade here, because I haven't yet fully torqued down these scale screws. Put the blade at 90 degrees and then torque those down and see if that helps me out here with the centering. Yeah, we're centered. That fixed it. Okay, beautiful. And I'm going to just tighten this down a little bit more. See if that helps or hinders. Yeah, we're good to go. Hey, it's pretty straightforward, honestly. Zero blade play. Rolls nicely. Not the most fall shutty thing on God's green earth. Maybe I could back the pivot off just a little bit more. That introduced a little bit of play, so let's crank it back down. It'll take a second for the lubrication to work its way through. Beautiful. Centering's good to go. Yeah, all right. So our little butcher is all set here, ready to go off to the slaughterhouse. I guess that's where a butcher would go, right? Butchers work in slaughterhouses? I don't know. Not a butcher. But anyways, this guy sure is. And that was relatively straightforward and kind of unique. I gotta say, the roller bearings are nice. The little set screw in there, although it didn't need to be adjusted here, did nicely. So, there we go. That's how you take apart and maintain your ADV Mini-Butcher. Hope this is interesting, and keep an eye out for the full review coming up shortly. Bye now.